and gentlemen, and welcome to the 684th edition of the Feuerstein's Fire American Soccer Show. I'm your host, Daniel Feuerstein. I'll give you American perspective of our clubs, leagues, players, national team, and other fabulous moments. Get your daily reading from me and other writers over at baddogsports.com, and of course over at Beyond the 90 at beyondthe90.substack.com. Join me here on YouTube right now. Of course, chat room is open. Post anything you'd want. You have a question for me, I'll try to answer it to the best of my abilities as we get ready to talk about the game in this country of American soccer. And now, some good news I think we have seen going through the internet right now. Of course, soccer writer and analyst Fabrizio Romano over in Europe has said now that Gio Reyna will be going to Parma in this summer transfer window in Europe. He'll be leaving Borussia Dortmund, going to Parma in Serie A in Italy, as they've been trying to bring him over to their club because of the whole situation. Now, look, I know what I said many weeks ago that, look, if Gio wants to come back to MLS, I think he should do so. Now, let me just say this, for those of you that want to see our players in Europe, I'm not arguing that thing. I'm not arguing that at all. Would I like to see our players in Europe? Absolutely. Do I think they have an opportunity to be in Europe? Absolutely. Do I believe that their talents should grace the pitches of England, of Italy, of Spain, of Germany? Hell yes. Even in the Netherlands, even in Scotland. I understand it's only Celtic and Rangers. It's not a great, strong league, and I understand that. But all I'm saying is that at least they'll have the opportunities to play in Europe when they go to either qualifying for the Champions League or the Europa League, or even now the new Conference League. So yes, there is an opportunity to play for a European club title if one of our players does play on some of these clubs in Europe. And while I do understand that England, Italy, Germany, and Spain are the four strongest nations in Europe, and I understand where everyone's coming from, I'm not disagreeing about that. But if you're playing in Europe, then for goodness sakes, you're good enough to be on the national team. And what everyone needs to understand, I want everyone to understand this, and I'm not just saying these things to say, go back to MLS this, go back to MLS that. Do I think that they should not go back to MLS? No, I'm not saying that. But the point I'm making is that if there was no one available to give Reyna the opportunity to be on their club in Europe, there's only one option, and one option only, for him to come back to MLS. And that was this opportunity. Because no matter what you may think, and I want you, the audience, to understand where I'm coming from, okay? I want people to understand that if he's not going to get the minutes in Europe, and no other club is going to be asking him within Europe to let him play for them, then let him come back to MLS and let him rebuild his name and his reputation. And when he has improved and he has learned his lesson, and when he is able to understand, to say, you know what, I have to understand that I cannot be like this. I cannot have this attitude. But if it's not his attitude, that's the question. If it is about his fitness, if it is about him staying healthy and for him to contribute, well, then that's also another factor as well. I don't want him hurt. I don't want him injured. I don't want him to be considered a waste of time. I don't. It hurts me to see this happen to him. because we all know what his potential can be as an attacking midfielder. And he can also be a creative midfielder at the same time. But the problem is that Mauricio Pochettino needs his information from some of the managers in Europe where some of our players are currently at. And if he's finding out that he's not doing the job, either he doesn't come to the national team or he does, but he doesn't play. And that's not my fault. That's not your fault. That's not even Pochettino's fault. That's on Gio Reyna when it comes to an attitude issue. And let's not forget what he did and his parents did to Greg Berhalter. And even though I say this, I'm not defending Berhalter's coaching ability because he's a terrible international head coach. And even if he is a terrible head coach on the international game, he's still the coach. He still has to be respected by his players because he makes up the roster. He selects the camp. He selects the players. He decides who starts, who subs in, and who comes out. We can always criticize Greg. We can always let him have it. We can always tell him to just leave the national team. But when it comes to those players, whether we agree or disagree with his tactics and his formations, those players have to listen to him. Just like these players have to listen to Mauricio Pochettino. And that's where I think the disconnect is coming. This is where the disconnect is going on right now in this day and age. Because either you think you're too good, and yet if you think you're too good, you'll never be cut or you'll never be called in. Well, we'll see what happens down the road. But I can tell all of you this. The entitlement is just terrible. We cannot continue to have this entitlement in this national team. And that goes for anybody and everybody. So, Gio Reyna, right now, she should be grateful. He should be grateful that Parma wants him and they want him badly. If it was me, I would say this. I wouldn't even tell this to Parma. I would tell Parma, if you're looking for an attacking player, if you're looking for someone that has been proven so far on the international stage and has done the job and can score goals, and it does well at set pieces as well, go ahead. Put him on the club. And then when it does happen, then I would go to Gio Reyna. I'd pull him over to the side. I'd give him a stern talking to. And I would tell Gio Reyna, you cannot mess this up. You cannot assume just because you're going to Parma now, leaving Dortmund, that you are in the bag. No, you're going to have to bust your butt. You're going to have to work hard. You need to prove to Parma that you will listen to them, you will do the job, and whatever they say, you will do. And if that means you're going to ride the pine for a bit, well, then you show them in training what you can do. Because right now, there are issues with you. And whether you like it or not, Gio, your situation with Berhalter ruined anything and everything that was supposed to come toward you. And this is where the entitlement has to end. This is where the entitlement has to stop. This is where everything has to come ahead, and he needs to understand no more of this. No more acting like a spoiled brat. No more acting like you are the second generation from what your father did. And even your own parents sabotaged you because of what they did to Berhalter. Look, I didn't want Berhalter anymore on the national team. I wanted him sacked. I wanted him gone after the 2022 World Cup in Qatar. But the way the whole situation got handled, that was wrong. That was terrible. That was high school bitch, and I did not like it. I did not like it. How does it feel to have your own friend backstab you the way he did to Berhalter? After being in the same state, being in the same school, being on the same national team, on that 2002 World Cup team that went as far as they could to the quarterfinals of that World Cup in South Korea and Japan. Taking down Portugal, drawing with a co-host in South Korea. Sure, they lost to Poland, but because of what South Korea did to Portugal, put them in the second round, took out Mexico 2-0, lost to Germany 1-0, but unfortunately should have had a penalty kick opportunity. And that's what I'm talking about, folks. That's what I'm talking about. You have to be gracious when you're in this game. You have to be humble. Sure, you can battle. You can hustle. You can show your guile. You can show your skills, your technical ability. But once you're off the pitch, be humble. Because you need to understand one thing and one thing only. And that is this. You cannot assume you're the hottest thing since sliced bread when you act like a schmuck to your teammates, to the manager and the coaching staff, and to all the supporters who pay good money to watch you perform and to watch you win for their club. When it comes to the national team, that's an entirely different kettle of fish. But I will say this. Once again, I want Reyna to be successful. I want to step up to this microphone right here. I'm right here on this headset and come to you on this platform and say to all of you that Gio Reyna is back. He is back and he's better than ever before. But I can't say it. I can't say it because he's not back, because he's barely playing. He's barely doing anything. He is now bench fodder. They glued his shorts to the bench and he can't get up. It's not the old lady that once said, "I've fallen and I can't get up," for the Life Alert commercials. But right now, he's stuck on the bench. They've glued his rear end to the bench. He's kept the seat very, very warm. And hopefully, he will leave Dortmund and Germany for Parma in Italy. And if they're going to use them, they're going to have to use them. Because if they're not going to use him the right way, and he acts like another jerk again towards somebody over there, well, then it's going to be a combination of what weighs more in this situation. Is it because he's American and he can't do the job, or he has a poor attitude, he's entitled, and he thinks he's the hottest thing since sliced bread? What are we weighing here, folks? Here's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping for he proves them wrong because he's an American player. That's what I want to see. They're going to deny him playing time because he's American and he cannot play this game, even though he has lineage from his father. Not the I'm hot shit and I can do whatever I want. I'm the hottest thing since sliced bread, and you know this. That's why you brought me over here. That's not what we want. Prove them that they know they have the right man to fix their issues, to attack, and to be at least the chance to win the Scudetto in Serie A. That's all I can say about that. Ladies and gentlemen, great show for you tonight. Unfortunately, no guests tonight, but we are going to have a conversation about something that happened that's been going around social media. But before we do, let's go ahead and talk about our sponsor. Let me tell you about this segment sponsor, Dino Luzzi Energy Drink. When I need that extra kick to power through match analysis and late night transfer rumors, there's only one drink that delivers authentic Italian energy, Dino Luzzi. Crafted in Italy with the same passion I bring to the show, because real energy comes from real ingredients, just like real soccer talk comes from real insiders. Dino Luzzi Energy Drink Italia. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about something special here, folks. Something that I never thought I would say about on this show today, because I would like to think this whole situation was nipped in the bud. But unfortunately, it has reared its ugly head again. And it is the aftermath of what happened between Christian Pulisic, head coach Mauricio Pochettino, our former players who have now become pundits in soccer media in this country, and then the aftermath of all that stuff, because, as you know, Christian Pulisic has his own docuseries on Paramount Plus through CBS Sports, documenting anything and everything Pulisic does in Italy for AC Milan, because CBS Sports is the broadcast home in the United States for the Italian Serie A. And seeing all these people coming to Christian's rescue, including Christian himself, is such a sad state of affairs for what we have seen behind the scenes when it comes to this. Watching behind the scenes, and to see him acting like, how dare they criticize me, the American soccer media, about not going to this Gold Cup. How dare they? How dare they criticize me because I just want a break. I just want a vacation. I just want to take it easy. And so I laugh at this. I do. I truly laugh at this, because you're 25, 26 years old and you want a break from the CONCACAF Gold Cup because you think that you're above everything? I mean, what is going on here? Sometimes I just believe that these players right now, these players on this national team, some of them, not all of them, but some of them, they believe they are entitled. They think because they haven't had to fight for a for a roster spot for this national team, because they felt they got it handed to them. No, no, you are supposed to be here. You are supposed to be a part of something special to move the progression of talented players forward. You are considered, along with Weston McKennie, Gio Reyna, Tim Weah, Yunus Musa, Tyler Adams, and the many other players that are now on this national team. You are considered the golden generation of American soccer that we have never, ever had. Sure, we've had a bunch of good guys. Sure, we've had a bunch of talented guys. Sure, they've done well for themselves. But, you know, in some of these people's eyes who watch you and talk about you, that type about you on social media and have platforms like what I do, they talk about you that you are the best thing since sliced bread. But the way you've been acting and the way you've performed since the last I should say the last was it the Copa America last summer? It's been nothing but rotten to the core. You heard me. Rotten to the core. Barely any fight, barely any sense of accountability, barely anything. But when you go back to your clubs in Europe, you will perform at the highest and highest of levels. Good for you. We all know that's where the majority of your money is coming from. We understand that. We understand you play match in, match out at Milan, at Juventus. Now for Weah, back to France with Olympique Marseille. And what? And you can't pull that off here for the national team? And yet, in official competition, not a friendly, in official competition, you can't even beat a plucky, determined, hard-working Panamanian team that is looking to knock you out. Looking to knock you out, and they've done it already 3 to 4 separate times. A Gold Cup, the Nations League semifinal, the Copa America group stage, and a home World Cup qualifier for them down in Panama. What does that tell you, folks? That tells me that these guys don't respect their opponents, that they are not Mexico. Oh, yeah, you can take out Mexico every which way but Sunday before Javier Aguirre made his return again for the third straight time. But you can't do it when you played against a very poor Mexican side. And then you go after pundits, former players that have to be paid to talk about your performance, going after both Tim Howard and Landon Donovan on their Unfiltered Soccer podcast. I mean, do you guys really are going after legends of American soccer? Really? I mean, say what you want about Landon Donovan. Look, I would have loved for him to be in Europe his entire career. He only had stints with Bayern Munich. He had 2 two loan deals with Everton. And anyway, with Bayern Munich, he was already considered an outsider anyway because they didn't want him there. They didn't want this American to be on this German team. No, we don't consider you. Get out. Jurgen Klinsmann was even head coaching Bayern Munich, and he brought Landon Donovan back in there. No, we don't want you. He was originally a Bayer Leverkusen's player. They didn't want to use him. It's so easy to pick on Landon Donovan. He could have been this. He could have been that. Yeah, he could have. But because of the negativity he's faced in Europe, unfortunately, back then, which is a lot worse than what it was now, okay, because now they're accepted. Our boys are accepted now than what they were then. If you were a great goalkeeper, you're in. You're a great defender, you're in. A great defensive midfielder, you're in. How about an attacking player, a creative midfielder? Oh, no. We don't trust them. No, we don't want them. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to do it. They don't want to listen to what we have to say. No, that's a bunch of hooey. They were never given an opportunity. Never given an opportunity. If you were an attacking player. And I'm talking about those clubs in Germany in the Bundesliga. You know how many years I've dreamt to see one of our players being in La Liga? I'm not talking about those players like Serginho Dest, who is born in Europe, yet one of his parents, whether his father or his mother, is a American serviceman at the bases in Germany or in Spain or wherever they are. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about dual citizenship American players. I'm talking about purebred American players like Johnny Cardoso, who's now at Atletico Madrid. That is a dream come true. Some of you don't understand how precious that is, that our players are now finally being respected for their technical ability and not because they were born in the United States. You can't play the game. Stick to your baseball. Stick to your American football. Stick to your basketball. Stick to ice hockey in the smaller rinks. That's what you need to understand here. You guys don't understand what it was like back in the earlier years from the late 90s into the 2000s. Not the 2010s, not the 2020s where we are right now. From 1996 all the way till the 2002 World Cup. Because that World Cup is when everything exploded and everything was going right for us. And what really bothers me is that none of you understand the hard fighting that our players needed to have to be considered a part of a club in Europe. As great as Clint Dempsey was, what happened with him at Fulham? How many managers casted him aside and he had to keep working his butt off to prove to them he can play this game? None of you ever see that? He transfers over from New England Revolution to Fulham, and he's trying to put on a display for his manager. And when he finally gets respected, then that manager gets sacked. A new manager comes in. I don't believe in you. You're sitting on the bench. And he's fighting for minutes again. Then he wins over that guy. That guy later on gets sacked. A new one comes in. Here we go again, the same thing. Why do you think Weston McKennie's going through the same thing in Juventus? I thought he's proven himself already. No. He still has to prove himself. How? How does Weston McKennie have to keep proving himself that he belongs in the starting 11 of Juventus? How? Tell me that. How? Does any of you have this answer? You probably don't, because you don't even pay attention to the whole real situation. You're only going to make up excuses for him. All of you. Excuses, 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 excuses. All of you are just an excuse machine on social media behind the freaking computer. Not me. I am here, right here, in front of your screens here on YouTube. I am here to tell you what's going on, and you don't listen. All you have to say is MLS stinks, go to Europe. Yeah, sure, like that. That doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean anything at all. All of you need to sit there and understand this is what you don't want to hear, you don't want to listen, you don't want to know. It's a lot harder in Europe. Okay? How many times did I have to tell you about Zach Steffen at Man City? Never, ever was he going to play a single minute of a Premier League match. Never. Never. He would play during the FA Cup matches or the League Cup matches. That's it. Anything in the Premier League, anything in UEFA Champions League, that's not for him. That's Ederson. And then all of a sudden, one game, he plays. Because you want to know why? Because during the COVID era, and I want you guys to understand this, during the COVID era, where they had to force down everyone's throat to make up for the lost time because of the COVID situation that happened across this world. They had to play 3 qualifiers within a week during the international calendar breaks. 3. And Ederson had to play the third and final game of that week in South America, and that match was on a Friday. The Premier League got restarted on a Saturday, and because Zach Steffen did not play that third game, did not even dress. I mean, obviously he dressed, but he didn't play the third game. That was Matt Turner. They gave it to him. Zach Steffen played the second game. Matt Turner played the third game. But what happened? What happened with Zach Steffen? Oh, simple. Zach Steffen played. 1 game in the Premier League. 1 game. And then when Ederson returned, he took over his starting spot because he could not get back in time to play in a Premier League match the next day because of what? What is it that the reason he could not play in the next day for Man City in the Premier League was because the time difference, folks. All of you love to jump on anybody to prove your own point, but when you don't pay attention to the reality of the situation, that's when you get in trouble. When you don't pay attention to the reality of anything and everything for him to get his starting position back at Man City, Ederson. But, oh yes, Zach Steffen is now playing in his first Premier League match. Really? Did he continue on after that? No. No, because Ederson was jet lagged. There is a time difference from Rio de Janeiro in Brazil to flying back to England and to be in Manchester from Heathrow in London. Do you not pay attention to these things? You just want to quickly get on your keyboard and say, ha ha, look what happened here, ha ha. Well, no, folks, that's not how it works. That's not how it works. But then again, Zach Steffen at that time was training with some of the best players in the world. Great. Give him the trophy for the best training minutes in the world. He earned it. He earned it. The best training minutes in the world for being in the training ground for Man City. Yep, give him a medal for being the starting goalkeeper when it is a League Cup match or an FA Cup match. Yeah, congratulations, Zach. Congratulations. Welcome. You did a bang-up job. By the way, how many Premier League games have you played? One? Yeah, one. How about Ederson? Yeah, he's been playing the majority of them. What does that mean? That means that you don't mean a damn thing to Mr. Head Coach of Manchester City. You don't mean a darn thing. You're just there. You're just there. That's it. Pep, that's all he wants you for. Pep Guardiola, that's it. No, you're my backup. I only play you during special cup matches. Premier League matches, that's the most important to us. That's Ederson's territory. Champions League? No. No Champions League for you. No. Ederson's my guy. That's right. Ederson is my guy. That's Pep Guardiola. You should know this, but you don't. It's really simple. It's really funny, isn't it? How you guys want to talk about all these things. But, going back to Pulisic now, he was going through the same thing. Christian Pulisic. Not at Dortmund. He was a regular at Dortmund until Chelsea came out of nowhere and said, we would like to buy Christian Pulisic from Borussia Dortmund. I said, sure, go ahead, take him. They already had other players ready to take his spot. And he goes to Chelsea. Does he start? No. Comes off the bench. Now, in fairness, and happy for Christian Pulisic, he did win the Champions League with Chelsea that one year. And he deserved it. Happy for him. He deserved every bit of it. But, with his former head coach at Dortmund and Thomas Tuchel. And then what happened? Well, he stopped playing him. Why was he not playing anymore? What did he do? Why is he playing on the national team? Was getting no minutes at Chelsea. What happened? What's the reason? And then now AC Milan comes calling, and thankfully he's playing minutes at AC Milan. Thankfully. But, after 2 full seasons of Milan, after a horrible stint at Chelsea, where he lost precious time, precious minutes, now all of a sudden, Christian Pulisic says, I'll play the 2 friendlies before the Gold Cup, but then I don't want to be in the Gold Cup. And there's a problem, and that's a hit for him. That's a problem. That Pochettino says, no, I need you for everything. Does he not understand, Christian Pulisic, how horrible this national team has been before the Gold Cup came this past June? Does he not know how important it is for him to at least right the ship and have a strong tournament? And then he goes on his podcast or on his docuseries, now that it's out, and basically lambastes the American soccer media. Tim Weah lambastes Landon Donovan and Tim Howard, goes against everybody, and it's just an absolute disgrace. And, I watch as many of these shows as I can. ESPN FC, the CBS Sports Galazo Network. I catch highlights as much as I can. I try to stay informed as much as I can. Obviously, Alexei Lawless's State of the Union podcast. But, it really, really bothers me that you have Pulisic talking like How dare you go after me after what I've done for you? Look, you've done some good things, but if you think not being a part of this past Gold Cup would have helped you out down the road, no, you're mistaken. That should never have happened. That should never ever have been even in your mindset. But hey, what are you gonna do? You and your friends and even your dad went after Tim Howard and Landon Donovan. And so, scrolling through social media, watching some highlights, I came across from I would say, two respectable analysts, pundits, that have not only played this game, have worn the badge for the U.S. men's national team, both of them goalkeepers in their own right. And they deserve to pass along judgment for how you and your friends have been playing. Here are the comments from ESPN FC's Casey Keller, former U.S. men's international goalkeeper. That's my job. I should have the right to be able to do my job. I'm not asking you to have a great game every time you step on the pitch. We know that's impossible, Keller said. All I'm asking you is to show 100% commitment, step on the pitch. And I don't think anybody watching the U.S. men's national team over the last year can be honest with themselves and say you've consistently seen a team that is giving 100% every time they step on the pitch. There was no edge to everything they've done. In the semifinal of the Nations League, it's like half the team was more interested sitting on the bench, taking Instagram photos than being in the match. I'm not being individually mean. I'm looking at a collective effort that did not hold a standard. You can have an off day, but you can always work hard. I have to do my job. I have to be honest with the fans. I'm not going to lie and say it looks great when it doesn't look great. That's my job. I should have the right to be able to do my job and say, I don't think this is good. I'm not picking on anybody. This is stuff that they invented. They've gone on social media. They've had docuseries. They've done all this. Now you're complaining about getting too much attention? Then don't and just play. Erase your social media. Don't go on podcasts or do an interview after the match. Go from there. That's old school. You can go do whatever you want. Just don't complain that you're having too much pressure when you created the pressure. Thank you, Casey Keller. Thank you, sir, for your wonderful insights. And let me also, there's a certain player that I know and respect, the man that led this evolution, who was a part of that 1989 team that was down in Port of Spain in Trinidad and Tobago, that was stopping those balls from going into the back of the net. That man, of course, is the Kearney, New Jersey native in Tony Meola. And he had his thoughts about Christian Pulisic, Tim Weah, and of course, Christian's dad, Mark Pulisic. Once again, Tony Meola's comments of CBS Sports Golazo Network. Are we criticizing or are we analyzing? Should we not analyze the Copa America and how miserable of a performance that was? Meola asked. Should we not analyze the Nations League in LA and how terrible that was? Or should we just go, this is one big kumbaya, and this golden generation is just they'll get it done at the World Cup. I don't understand that part. Evil? I don't know if any of us are evil. We're just doing our jobs. We get paid. We've argued for so long, for so many years, about how nobody cares or watches the national team. And now you have this wild hair up your ass because somebody tells you that you sucked in a game? You think none of us went through any of that? And even worse, we just didn't have enough of it. It wasn't national news, but you read about it, you heard about it all the time. This is nothing new. Can you imagine the pressure if you're an Argentinian player, if you're an English player, or like in Italy, with how much they're getting they're getting bashed as a national team? I've been friends with Mark Pulisic for a long time. We played together at the youth level. You got to stay out, Mark. I know you're a dad. You get emotional. Your kid is at the top of the heap, right? I've got other friends in other sports that their kids right now are in top of the heap. They listen to this all the time about their kids. You can't respond. Excuse me. Stay out, Chris. Stay out. Christian is a big boy. He will be able to do this on his own. He will be able to carry this team. I feel like there is a big divide between this team and everyone and anyone else in and around the national team that's ever been associated with. Thank you, Tony Meola. And this is where I get upset and I get angry because these players don't understand what it's like to support this game as an American for an American national team, for an American league, American leagues, anything and everything in this country. Here's something you guys need to understand. You need to understand it very quickly. I'm talking about the people here of today, American soccer fans of today. And if you don't want to hear it, and if you feel this is another one of those get off my lawn moments, well, tough. This is not a get off my lawn moment. Get on my lawn, open your ears, close your mouth, and listen. I worked, and I still work in the sports news industry. Yeah, I wasn't working for CBS. I wasn't working for ESPN. I wasn't working for ABC or NBC. Okay? I was working for a company called the Phoenix Communications Group, located in South Hackensack. We were the hub to help NBC News and CBS News affiliates sending highlight packages of sporting events around the United States and Canada and around the world, whether it be Major League Baseball, the National Hockey League, the NFL, the NBA, golf, tennis, NASCAR, IndyCar, Formula One, the Olympics, Winter and Summer Games. I had to go into an office building on the 5th floor, and I had to rewind tapes, reusable recording tapes, copy multiple sheets to write down anything and everything for NBC News and CBS News affiliates. I had to give out the information to an editor, and at times I had to edit myself. You need to understand what I had to go through as a soccer fan, what I had to endure as a soccer fan. This is before doing a podcast. This is before covering American soccer on a professional level. I had to take the criticism, the stupid, insults from these schmucks. How many times did I have to be asked, when is MLS falling? When are they shutting down? In 2 years? 3 years? Well, and how many times did I have to hear from another schmuck who said to me, soccer players are not real athletes. Just because you can't use your hands doesn't mean they are not real athletes. And how many times did I have to hear when we started covering the UEFA Champions League, and then you're hearing all of a sudden, oh yeah, it should stay in Europe. It shouldn't be here in the United States. It's just for the kids, just for the girls. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. Shut down MLS. We don't need this here. How does that help? How does that help us? Sure. And how many times did I have to hear, well, I think Major League Soccer should shut down and have all the good Americans just move to Europe? Really? How are they going to do that? How is that possible? What, to have a league that's not considered, all the eyes are not on it? Oh, sure. We've had the USISL, which is now USL. We've had the A League. But was it a serious league? Well, to us, yes. Everybody else, no. Do you know how fractured we were back then? We still are in some ways. Internally, governance-wise, we're fractured. But besides that, I would like to know from some of you, if you dare to comment right now, if you want to comment, go ahead. What does it mean for you where you hope that our players have that opportunity to be in Europe when the scouts don't even want to come to this country? I mean, I don't know how it was back then with Claudio. I don't know if a scout came to the US and saw him play over here and then took him over there. But I can definitely tell you this, without this league being here, our players would not get the minutes. Our players would not be looked at and scouted by clubs in Europe. Why do you think Mexico has been ahead of us? Why do you think everyone's been ahead of us? We've had leagues. We haven't had the level of where it should be. And now we're here. Now we're here. We are here. But there's a problem because, it's only been 30 years and, that's the best leagues are in the Europe and everything, which I'm not disputing. I'm not disputing. But why can't we have the same thing here like they do over there? And we need more time. And we have all the time in the world to grow this game the right way. Yes, there is struggles internally. Yes, there are issues. I'm not disputing the issues. It all has to come together. And then once we can all be kumbaya together, work together, battle hard against each other, but work together at the same time, the natural order of the game will come finally. All the mechanisms that we want, that everywhere else around the world has, will finally come and be here. We cannot rush what will not work right away. And while, yes, there is a lack of promotion relegation, and yes, USL will have it within themselves with the first division that they're going to create and the Championship League and their USL League One, it will still be within a closed league because NISA will not have it, NPSL will not have it, UPSL will not have it, and Major League Soccer and MLS Next Pro will not have it. And so That is what is in front of us, folks. And another thing, when it comes to Christian Pulisic and Tim Weah, and I've said this. Now, I don't know if Mauricio Pochettino will do the deed. If he does, I applaud him. If he doesn't, look, it is what it is. There's nothing I can say. I could probably criticize it. There's nothing I can say about it because he'll bring those players. And listen, I don't want to see Pulisic and Weah not be on this World Cup team. I don't. I really, really don't. I really don't want them not to be on the roster. But what they did, or at least what Pulisic did, there has to be consequences. There has to be consequences for his actions, for saying no to the Gold Cup, because there's nothing after that. It's all friendlies. This September, this October, this November, next year, March, and then maybe a couple of friendlies in June before the actual tournament begins. That was the last competitive window. And if you feel this is nothing, the Gold Cup is nothing, whatever. Look, major tournaments. No, it's not about what's a major tournament or not. If there was a major tournament, you want to know what the major tournament is? The World Cup. The Euros are not a major tournament. The Copa America is not a major tournament. The Copa America is the South American Cup for CONMEBOL, that confederation's top national team tournament. They do not invite anybody else now. Only in South America. They only keep it in South America, and that's it. But why was it last time here in the United States? Because Messi's here. Because Messi is here in MLS in the United States. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand this now, does it? Does it? The Euros, it's tough enough to qualify for it, even if you are from Europe. Sure, the same olds qualify for every single year, but for the other smaller European nations, it's a tough sell to try and qualify for the European Championship on the national team level. Why don't you guys understand? And you never understand this. Once again, the CONCACAF Gold Cup is the tournament and the trophy for this region of CONCACAF, which stands for North America, Central America, and the Caribbean. So any national team in the three separate zones, we are in the North Zone along with Canada and Mexico. The Central Zone, that is Belize, that is Costa Rica, that is Honduras, that is Guatemala, that is Panama, that is Costa Rica, Nicaragua, and El Salvador. And there's the Caribbean zone with Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, Curacao, and all the other minnows down there, like Antigua and Barbuda, like Dominica, the Dominican Republic, and Cuba, and U.S. Virgin Islands, and the British Virgin Islands. And yet, even some of those island nations that are not FIFA members are able to participate in this Gold Cup, and that's their World Cup. And also, let's not forget those nations that are actually, which some of you don't even know this, that thankfully I did not fail geography, or at least I looked it up because I am an educated person. I don't know about you guys, but I know I am. Did you know that some of these nations in CONCACAF are part of South America? Did you not know that? Did you? I don't think you know this. I don't even think you can look at a map and tell me where some of these places are. I mean, it's just incredible. And even I admit at first, I didn't know. I thought they were on an island somewhere in the Caribbean Sea. No, they're part and connected to the northern west corner in the north and the west end of South America. I mean, it's fascinating. It's very, very fascinating. So, what countries are part of South America that are part of CONCACAF? Well, it's very simple. And here it is. We have Guyana. We also have French Guyana. And we have Suriname. And that's about it. Those three nations are in the northern end of South America. They are bordering to the west of them, the west of Guyana, Venezuela. They are south of Brazil. So there you have it. So if you really think about it, if CONMEBOL wanted to take Guyana, Suriname, and French Guyana and put them with them and take them out of CONCACAF, I'm not opposed to it. But then again, they're not going to do it because they only want the 12 nations that are making of their South American Confederation of Football, CONMEBOL. Well, isn't that interesting? Go ahead, take a look at the map. Take a look and see what goes on. But once again, the African Cup of Nations, that's CAF. That's their tournament. The Asian Cup, the Asian Football Confederation, that's their tournament. The Oceania Cup, that's their tournament. The OFC Cup. You understand? There is no major tournament. Because if there was a major tournament, that means everybody would be involved. That's the World Cup. What's a major tournament in college basketball? The NCAA Final Four. And not everyone goes into it. They have to go through qualifiers, and there are conference tournaments, whether it's a big conference or a mid-major conference. Do you understand? Why do you think the Dominican Republic showed their stuff for the first time ever? Because they wanted to prove to CONCACAF that they are here. Why do you think Curacao has been able to qualify for a long time for these last several years? Because they finally got over the hump and now are showing quality. Okay? Now they're showing technical players. You, the fans, have allowed our players to gain a giant head and an arrogance that should never have been in there in the first place. And this is where I have said once again, do I want Pulisic on the World Cup roster? Yes. But the way he acted towards Pochettino, and now that we've seen how he's acting, he doesn't deserve to be on this World Cup roster. He must suffer the consequences of his actions. And for some of you thinking, well, he's drinking the Kool-Aid. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid? Me? I'm drinking the Kool-Aid? Silly, silly child. Silly children. This is what being an adult is all about. When you know you did something wrong, you admit to it and you apologize for it. You take responsibility for your actions. You get accepted back in, and then you move on. I don't think he has accepted it. And here's the other thing, too, that really bothers me. Apparently, some English broadcaster or some English reporter is on this highlight saying, well, he has to go back and be ready for another Serie A season in Italy. Like, you can't worry about this Gold Cup. I'm sorry, excuse me. Do you do this? Do you do this? If it was an English player who did not want to be a part of the Euros, if England qualified for it, and he says, I want to break from the Euro national team tournament, England qualifies for the Euros, and let's just say for the hell of it, It's Marcus Rashford, who just comes out of nowhere, tells his head coach, tells his manager, I'm going to take a break this summer. I'm going to take a break this summer. I'll be there for the World Cup. I'll be ready for the World Cup, but I'm going to take a break this summer. I mean, unless he's injured or he's recovering from injury, you get your rear end on that national team and you fight for your shirt, for your badge, the 3 lions on England's badge, you fight for them. Just like you fight for the stars and stripes on the badge on your national team, on that shirt, Christian Pulisic. And this is why I'm upset, and this is why I'm disgusted, and this is why I feel bad for all these players, from Tony Meola, John Harkes, Alexi Lawless, Peter Vermees, Marcelo Balboa, Landon Donovan, DeMarcus Beasley, Tim Howard, Brian McBride, Claudio Reyna, Pablo Mastroeni, Kobe Jones, Casey Keller, Brad Friedel, Eddie Lewis. Okay? Landon Donovan himself, Clint Mathis, Eddie Johnson, Clint Dempsey. Even Charlie Davies had a stint on the national team. Even Sasha Kleiston. And even Chris Armas at times. Anyone that wore that national team shirt with the badge that said USA on it, they have every stinking right to call your backsides out. They have every right to tell you you are out of line. They have every right to tell you your play was absolute garbage. Garbage. And I have the right to tell you you are acting like a spoiled, entitled brat. I said it. A spoiled, entitled brat. And for your father to come in and throw shade at Landon Donovan and Tim Howard, sit down and shut up. You know, when I talk about certain players, if it's for the club team that I cover, which is the New York Red Bulls, or when I cover the U.S. men's national team, what do? Yes, I give criticism and analysis myself on their play. If they are doing great, I write about it. If they're doing decently, I write about it. If they're doing terribly, I write about it, but I do it in a professional way. I do not insult them. I do not call for their heads. What I try to do is, yes, this is what they're doing wrong here, 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 and here. But I at least throw in some hope and say, well, I hope they can do this better, do that better, and do that better, and do that better. Because I want to see them succeed. I want to see them succeed. And when the time comes that they don't return because either their contract was up or they transfer out or get traded to another club in the league, and I'll just say it, they just weren't able to do it here. But what I cannot understand and what I cannot take is how these 3 people, Christian, his father, and Tim Weah basically gave the verbal middle finger to both Tim Howard and to Landon Donovan. After what Landon Donovan has done in the game, got our national team to a FIFA final, not the World Cup, but when they had the Confederations Cup, got them to the final against Brazil. And yes, had a 2-0 lead at halftime. And even though they eventually lost that game, they lost that final to Brazil. I was proud of them because they fought their asses off. And you saw how Clint Dempsey took that loss hard when he accepted his second place medal and basically dove his head and his face, cried at Sunil Gulati, at the time president of the U.S. Soccer Federation. I felt for Clint. I felt for him. I applauded what he did. I was very sad for him. I applauded him. I knew he gave it his all, and he showed that. It wasn't the World Cup final. I wish that I'm hoping that's going to happen for our national team. But the way these kids are acting, I don't know. And that's where I'm saying, if these players got the call for the Gold Cup, Malik Tillman, Diego Luna, Max Arfston, Matt Freeze, and they went out and balled the way they did, regardless of the opponent, they balled. Sure, there were mistakes. Yes, there were some issues. I'm not questioning the issues, because there were. But they went out and battled for the shirt because they wanted to be there. And that's where I am angry and I am upset because, and I hate to say it, this golden generation is now tarnished. And the only way it gets buffered up and polished again is if they just keep this closed, keep this open, keep these open as well, because you want to learn while you watch and you listen. And don't you ever do this again, because if this happens to a new head coach, if Pochettino does not remain the head coach of the U.S. men's national team, and somebody else comes in, it'll be a lot worse. It will definitely be a lot worse. And we cannot have that, folks. It is an absolute travesty if Pulisic will do this again. And now it's over. My rant is done. It's now time to talk about other things in American soccer, especially the New York Red Bulls. A full week of Red Bulls action against the Philadelphia Union. First, we go to the Wednesday night matchup at Subaru Park against the Philadelphia Union in the U.S. Open Cup. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was a real heartbreaker as the Red Bulls fell to the Philadelphia Union by a final of 3-2. Now, I have to say this. I thought the game plan was brilliant by Sandro Schwarz. I thought the game plan was fantastic, and they got off to a hell of a start. First 10 minutes, they get the lead in the 8th minute. AJ Marcucci, great ball, great distribution from him. Ball bounced a couple of times. Marcucci gets underneath it. Carmona gets underneath it, retrieves the ball, and then out of the blue, just takes it one time, just scores it inside the near post, beats Andre Blake to make it 1-0. Absolutely fantastic. Great chance, and the Red Bulls are ahead. There's still a good Union team. They were going for it, and they did equalize 5 minutes later in the 13th minute from Ty Baribo. It was a free kick, and unfortunately for the Red Bulls, they got scored on. Philly gets the equalizer off of a Ty Baribo quick little back heel shot to beat Marcucci inside the far post 1-1. Now, I'll admit, I thought there was a foul. Not so much that people were screaming, or the Rebels were screaming for an offside. Was Baribo offside? I could not tell from the angle that I saw it, so that was difficult. But I thought, at least from my angle, from the main camera angle, there was a foul committed by the Union player on a Red Bull defender. And unfortunately, that did not get called either. And there was VAR in it because they did review it, and they said it was a good goal. So if there was a hint of offside, I just don't think there was. I just don't think they had enough evidence to overturn the goal. If it was offside, then I mean, you hope that they can find something there, or Baribo was a little further out because that free kick did get deflected. And unfortunately, Marcucci just couldn't make the save there. And that was in the 13th minute. And then several yellow cards to the Red Bulls. Obviously, Kyle Duncan, the 23rd minute, got booked for a grab. Raheem Edwards, yes, he leaped up for the ball. I did not see him thrust his left arm forward into the Philadelphia Union player. He got booked. I look, he jumped up, he tried to defend the ball. I didn't see the arm go like this. So unless it was a very slight one, my bad, but I didn't think there was anything of it. Then, of course, nothing afterwards. And then as we keep moving on, second half comes in. Well, before we even get to the second half, I want to talk about that incident that happened in the match. Around the 32nd minute, it was a bit of a shoving match between Kyle Duncan and Olweku Makhanya, where Makhanya was trying to get Kyle Duncan to get his second yellow card and then the red. Makhanya shoved Duncan. Not too hard, but he shoved him. Duncan, who was on a yellow card, shoved Makhanya back, and Makhanya, of course, ate it up. Like, he's trying to get Duncan to get sent off here so the Red Bulls can be down to 10 men for the rest of the way. Now, thankfully, the referee did not do that. The referee did not pull out the second yellow card. He had a talking to with both Kyle Duncan and with Makhanya, and everything was fine on the free kick for the Red Bulls. But 4 minutes later, Kyle Duncan was being subbed out for Dylan Nealis. And then you saw the reaction between both Duncan and Sandro Schwarz. And yeah, that's a yelling match, folks. That should never have happened. Duncan has to understand. Kyle needs to understand. You cannot put yourself in that position where you are on a yellow card. Because if you get the second yellow and then red, you're done, and your team is down to 10 men, and then they're not going to be able to hold off a powerful Philadelphia Union side. You had to stay 11-11. You had to keep your head screwed on right. You could not lose your temper, and he did. Cannot do that. And Sandro had every single right to sub you out because you became a danger. You became a danger to yourself. You became a danger to the club, and you could not lose that quarterfinal match down to 10 men. You could not. You get to halftime, it's 1-1. Strong battle, solid battle. After 62, 63 minutes of the young players getting their opportunities, here come the big guns coming in, Emil Forsberg and Eric Maxime Choupo-Moting, and boy, was that something special, that goal in the 71st minute. That goal was amazing. Dylan Nealis at the far side gets the ball going down along the far side touchline. He just looked up for a bit, saw Choupo-Moting right there in the middle, delivered a beautiful ball, crossing it right into the path of Choupo-Moting, a half volley side foot step, and then rainbowed it right into the upper near 90. beats Andre Blake to make it 2-1 Red Bulls. Unfortunately, it didn't last that long, that lead either. 3 minutes later, Milan Losky taking advantage of an open area, short sides the ball inside the front post on the far side, and made it 2-2. Everything was going great. Everything was going strong. And then in the 89th minute, that's when disaster struck. And it's not just because the third goal was scored by Makhanya, but that was tough to watch. AJ Marcucci basically falling down and staying down, injuring himself, attempting to punch the ball away from his net. As that ball was crossed from the far side toward his net, could he have grabbed it? He probably could have grabbed it. He decided to punch it out. And unfortunately, the location of his fist on the ball was not in a good location. I would say it was probably, he didn't get underneath it to punch it up. He kind of got it like this, and he kind of hit it like flush and then went down the ball. So that left a juicy rebound for Makhanya to bury it. But then once again, when Marcucci landed, and we found out, of course, a ruptured ACL in his left knee, and he went down in a heap, and he could not get up to make a save attempt to stop that shot. The Red Bulls tried to stop it. Unfortunately, it was a rocket by Makhanya that went inside the far post, and eventually the Red Bulls were knocked out of the Open Cup, and basically Philadelphia will be traveling to Music City to take on Nashville SC in the semifinals of the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup. And I understand how everyone was frustrated and upset and angry. Oh, we expected this. No, you didn't. You didn't expect Marcucci to get an injury. If he doesn't have that happen to him, he's on his feet, he's in great position, and he stops that shot, or at least he'll attempt to stop that shot by Makhanya. So, this is a tough pill to swallow. I understand. Listen, I didn't like it. I hated it. I absolutely hated it. Of course they got knocked out of the Open Cup. I didn't want that. But I cannot blame the club for playing a damn good 90 minutes and unfortunately landing wrong and rupturing an Achilles, rupturing an ACL in the left knee, and all of a sudden getting a free shot, and it's over. That's not on the club. That's an unfortunate circumstance. You can say whatever you want as a fan. Fine, it's another failure. Whatever. I'm sorry. I will not put that down there. No. Eventually, yes, they lost. And I understand that. But that was an injury that, okay, it shouldn't have happened, but it did. And unfortunately, the freakish of things happen. And he's done for the rest of the season, unfortunately. So all I can tell you is this. Hopefully, Marcucci will be ready to go for next season. He'll go through rehab. And they'll get some time. So right now, what does that mean? Red Bulls 2 starting goalkeeper in MLS Next Pro. Aiden Stokes is now the backup, and he'll be pulling double duty for both Red Bulls and Red Bulls 2 in MLS Next Pro action. So that's unfortunate, and unfortunately for AJ Marcucci, that happened, and I just wish it didn't happen, but it did. So unfortunately, that's what it is. So that meant 15 straight matches of a winless streak against the Union. And later on, 3 days later, they returned to Sports Illustrated Stadium to take on the Union in league action. And the miracle finally happened. The miracle came, folks. And there it is. Finally, a win. A win against the Philadelphia Union to keep their playoff hopes alive. Nothing throughout the entire match for the Union, both teams were attacking. Both teams were not doing well in the shooting department. But there was that one moment where Tim Parker, and even he admitted it, Tim Parker, he handled the ball inside the area in the 66th minute. And then it would be Bruno Damiani to take the penalty. Carlos Coronel told all of his teammates, get out of the area, get out of my box, I got this. Stared down Damiani. Damiani went to his right. Carlos made the big save to his far post and kept the match scoreless. And then the magic happened in the 74th minute. At the far side, it was Emil Forsberg attacking down along the touchline. Gave it to Eric Maxime Choupo-Moting. And then he crossed it diagonally low to Dylan Nealis and inside the area. And once Dylan Nealis got into position, he didn't take a touch. He didn't take 2 touches. He didn't take 3 touches. He went for the shot. And he beat Andrew Rick inside the far post. And throughout the rest of the match, the Union had nothing. Absolutely nothing. Tim Parker, veteran Tim Parker, reliable Tim Parker, in the back end of his area, near Coronel, takes a running start and then heads the ball out of danger. And then the Red Bulls, with 6 minutes of stoppage time added, held off the Union and finally got the 3 points at home, finally got the 3 points against the Union. Long time coming, breaking it up at 15 winless, and finally beating the Union either at home or in Subaru Park in Chester. And unfortunately for Andre Blake, who did start this match, was subbed out in the 28th minute because his hamstring was acting up. And Andrew Rick took over. So for the Red Bulls, they're still in it. Still tied on points, but once again, Chicago has a match in hand. New York City FC has 2 matches in hand due to certain issues with the weather. But once again, that's what it is. But ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for joining me tonight. And trust me, I don't want to be like this. I really don't want to. I want to inform you and give you the information of what you want to hear about our game in this country in a positive light. But if I have to also talk about the negativity, I have to. But if this is not negative, this is just makes me mad and it makes me angry that Christian Pulisic and Tim Weah are taking this for granted. And they're also going after the players before them that tried to make this national team great. This cannot happen again. And I want Christian Pulisic to understand this. Stop the entitlement and play. Be grateful that Milan is starting you when Chelsea said you're not starting. Just remember that. My name is Daniel Feuerstein. Thank you very much for watching me tonight. And as always, please, 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 please enjoy your football. Thank you. Take care. So long and bye-bye for now. Have a good night, everybody.